So VA stands for vertical asymptote. I'm just saying VA. You also have to tell me the horizontal asymptote. If it has a slant. Now it's either going to have one or the other. It can't have a horizontal asymptote and a slant. If it's top heavy, it has a slant. That's the only time it has a slant, is when the exponent at the top is higher. And I'm just copying this off of, so if you look at the homework 15, this question is very close to number 4. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Looking at that dark pink paper. Let's see, let me scroll back. If we go all the way back. So this here, the R, so roots is the same as x-intercepts. Roots, see how it says these are x-intercepts, okay? So special cases is if it's not a single fraction. If it's not a single fraction, it's a special case. So that's what we're getting ready to graph right now. We're going to figure out the x-intercept for this one. All right, so to find the x-intercept, because it's a special case, what you have to do is take the entire fraction, set that equal to 0. So you can't just look at the numerator when it's a special case. So when it's a special case, we have to solve it like an equation. So let's go ahead and add 2. So that gives us x over x minus 3 equals 2 over 1. Go ahead, cross multiply that and solve this like a proportion. Solve that for x. So you'll have 2 times x minus 3 equals 1x. Go ahead and distribute and solve that for x. Everybody should have the study guide for the test, and the videos and answer keys are posted. So you have 2x minus 6 equals x. Subtract the 2x from both sides. Negative 6 equals negative x. Divide both sides by negative 1 and x equals 6. So that would be your x-intercept. So we're going to put that on our... So I'll give you a chance. I'll have to take that off because I don't have a lot of space, but... So let's plot that x-intercept. We're going to put a point at 6 on the x-axis. So the next thing we're going to find is, if we look at your dark pink paper, the A stands for vertical asymptote. So your vertical asymptote, what does it tell you to look at for your vertical asymptote? Come on, y'all. We got test Friday. I need y'all to help me out here. What does it say on the pink paper? Where does it say to look for the A? The A stands for asymptote. Where do you look? Denominator. So let's look at your denominator, which is x minus 3. Set that equal to 0. That's your vertical asymptote. So if you take the x minus 3 and set that equal to 0, you should get x equals positive 3. Go ahead and draw that in. So we're going to draw in a solid, well, not a solid. I usually just make a dashed line. And this is just my reminder that this is the line that the graph cannot go through. Now this is the E on your paper, and it stands for in behavior. So let's look at your exponents. This is your in behavior asymptote. That's on the pink paper, your dark pink paper. So you need to study that pink sheet. First of all, is this top heavy, bottom heavy, or balanced? Looking at your exponents on this fraction. They're balanced. So what does that tell you on that paper when it's balanced? What does it tell you to do? It has a horizontal asymptote, so that means that we can say none right here. So this one does not have a slant. It's either going to have a slant or a horizontal asymptote. So this one is balanced, so it has a slant. It has a horizontal. So now to find where your horizontal asymptote is located, you're going to divide these two. So we're going to take 1 divided by 1. So y equals 1 divided by 1, and then you also have to subtract this 2. So your horizontal asymptote ends up being at y equals 1 minus 2. And what is 1 minus 2? -1. I got one person. I'm going to just rock with that one person now. Let's draw that in. Drawing a dashed line at -1. Lastly is your y-intercept. What does it tell you to do at the bottom of the pink sheet? How do you find the y-intercept? Plug in the 0 for x, so go ahead and do that. Go back to your equation. Substitute in a 0. So y equals, and then you have 0, and that's divided by 0 minus 3, and then you have a minus 2. So that will give you just a -2, because anything 0 divided by anything is 0, right? So this fraction is just 0, and then you have 0 minus 2. So your y-intercept is at -2. Go ahead and plot that point. So we don't really have a lot. We need to make a t-chart. So you need to pick your x values, and you can pick any x values except for 3. So I usually like to pick points right next to the asymptote. So let's plug in 2 and 4. So go ahead, let's plug in 2, and let's plug in 4. So for 2, you're going to have 2 divided by 2 minus 3 minus 2. Go ahead and see what you get. And then you have 4 divided by 4 minus 3 minus 2. Go ahead and plug both of those in and see what you get for your y values. Let me see if I can do it without a calculator. Let me see. 2 divided by -1 is -2. So I think the first one is -3. But you want to make sure, because it's early in the morning and I haven't had coffee. But I think for the first one, you should get 2. You should get a -3. So I think you get -3 for this one. And then for the second one, let me see. Okay, so 4 minus 3 is 1. 4 divided by 1 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. Did you get 2 for the second one? Is that what you all got? We agree with those numbers? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and plug those in. Plot those points, I meant to say. So we're going to put a point at 2, -3. Now remember, you cannot go through your asymptotes. So this graph is going to go straight out, and it's going to just it's going to get really close to that blue line, but it's not going to go through the blue line or the purple line. So if you do this on the test, that's like minus 8 points. You definitely don't understand the asymptote. An asymptote is a line that you cannot go through. So when you're drawing it, get really close to that blue line, then you're going to curve and then go straight down. That's what that graph looks like. And then on the second one, the 4 up 2. 4 up 2. Again, I'm really close to that vertical asymptote. I cross through both, and then I go straight out. Okay, we got 2 more to cover. Yes. Yes. So yeah, so here you see my T-chart. I picked these X values. So you can pick whatever X values you want to pick, but I just picked numbers close. I just wanted to fill it in close to the vertical asymptote. So yes, I've substituted those numbers in for X. Okay, so our next question. All right, go ahead and copy this one down because this one will have a slant because it's top heavy. So this one looks like number 3 in the homework. And I'm just writing out the questions that are on the, remember that it could say on the test, it could say root or x-intercept, but a root and an x-intercept is the same thing. VA stands for vertical asymptote. The EBA, you have to tell me if it's a horizontal, if it's H horizontal or if it's a slant. And then the last thing is your y-intercept. Okay, so let's go ahead and factor the numerator because anytime you see a quadratic, we should factor. So go ahead and factor that down. Find your 2 numbers that multiply to be -6, but add to a +1. So 2 numbers, they multiply to give you -6. And add to +1. What would those numbers be? Multiplies to be -6, adds to +1. +3 and -2. Okay. So does something cancel? Did something cancel out? Do we have a factor we can cancel? All right. So for your whole, we're going to say we don't have any. We don't have any because nothing cancels out. But you always want to factor it to see. Okay, so your roots, looking at your pink sheet. Notice this is just a single fraction. This is not a special case. So where do you look at when it's a single fraction to find your x-intercepts or your roots? Where do you look? At the top. So look at both of these that you're looking at the numerator. So you have 2 x-intercepts. So set the x plus 3 equal to 0. And set x minus 2 equal to 0. So for your roots, if x plus 3 equals 0, then x equals -3. So we're going to put a point at -3, 0. And then if x minus 2 equals 0, then x equals 2. All right, so let's go ahead and plot both of those. -3, +2. Okay, where does the paper tell you to look for vertical asymptote? Where do you look at? The bottom. Set that equal to 0. Take the x minus 1, set that equal to 0. And you get x equals +1. So that is my vertical line that the graph cannot go through. So let's go ahead and draw that in. All right, I'm gonna do the EVA last. Go ahead and find your y-intercept. How do you find the y-intercept? Substitute a 0 in per x. Go ahead and do that. Now, when you find your y-intercept, you can use either one of these forms. So you can use your factor form, or you can use the non-factor form. It's whichever one you want to work with. You get the same answer. So go ahead, take a moment, find your y-intercept, and graph that. Who got positive 6? Okay. So we did our synthetic division to find our slant, graphed our slant, and then you can pick any number. I picked 5, but you can pick any number. So the main thing to keep in mind when you're graphing on this next test is just that pink sheet. Know how to find your vertical asymptote, your x-intercept, the end behavior, and the y-intercept. And then after that, it's just going to be a T-chart where you just find numbers. Okay, so this last one we're not going to graph. We're just going to answer questions about. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up. Let's go ahead and I'm going to take off the graph. Okay, so what we're going to answer is the vertical asymptote, the horizontal. Does it have a slant? Remember, it's one or the other. It can't have both. The x-intercept and the y-intercept. So we're going to answer that about this. Anytime you see something that can be factored, you want to factor that. So go ahead and factor this down. And then take a minute with your dark pink sheet, and try to answer these 5 questions like a practice test. See if you can answer it using your dark pink sheet, and then we'll go through the 5 together. So this one has 2 vertical asymptotes. So follow the dark pink sheet and where to look. What are your 2 numbers that multiply to be -2 and add to -1? X minus 2 and x plus 1. So nothing cancels out. Your vertical asymptotes come from your denominator. So both of these, so you have 2. So your first one would be at x equals +2. The second one is at x equals -1. Now, does this one have a horizontal or a slant? Horizontal, because it's bottom heavy. So for your slant, you don't have one. It only has a slant if it's higher on the top, if it's top heavy. And if it's bottom heavy, it's automatically, what does it say on your pink sheet? What is it going to be at? Y equals 0. You don't have to do anything. If it's bottom heavy, it's automatically y equals 0. So your x-intercept is going to come from the numerator. If you take the numerator, which says x, and set that equal to 0, you just get 0. So your x-intercept is at 0, 0. And your y-intercept is also going to be at 0, 0. Okay, so we've covered every question on homework 15. Who's finished homework 15? Use this time to work on homework 15. So we went through one example, one of each. So homework 15, work on that. You want to do your own homework. I passed it out Friday. The same time you got that dark pink paper, you got a homework and a test review. If you don't have it, there's extras over there. Use this time to work on homework 15 because that's the only new thing that's going to be on the test. You have the study guide, you have the answer key to the study guide, you have everything you need to get an A. So focus on doing your very best on this last test. And I will see you guys on Thursday because tomorrow is PSAT.